Hello everyone! In today's video I will talk about different PC setups for a budget of 1000 euros or less, as here each euro counts and matters. Note that it is up to you to research how demanding are the games you intend to play or programs that you will be using, though I will give a general remark from time to time. I will be using Part Picker, but it will be set to the German market, because as a European, I feel like we deserve that. Firstly, for 300 euros or less. The only viable option here is the second-hand market, as there is no way to get a brand new PC that is capable of gaming, excluding streaming services and extremely lightweight games. From 300 to 500 euros. You can get what I would dub a hybrid PC, which means that you buy a used office PC, ideally you want a 6-core CPU, which you will get in all i5s from the 8000 series onwards on Intel, or a Ryzen 5 with the 3 numbers of 600 or more. Know that it is unlikely for you to get processors with higher core counts for that amount of money, but there will be plenty of 4-core CPUs, which are still capable of gaming, but you should get it only if it is a good deal and if you're fine with that, and please don't consider anything with DDR3, as those things are 10 years old or even more. When it comes to RAM, 16GB would be optimal. Though buying a PC with only 8 is still fine, as DDR4 is dirt cheap and you should easily get another stick for 20 euros or less. Heck, you can get a new set of 16GB DDR4 running at 3200 MHz CL16 for less than 30 euros. Make sure that it has an SSD, or maybe you could reuse one from your old PC, or maybe you can buy one, but you should include all other expenses in your price so that you don't go over the budget. So now let's talk about GPUs that don't blow our whole budget. Let's start with Intel. They're offering the Arc 310 and Arc 380, which go around 110 or 140 euros. Don't get them if you got older systems, as Intel cards require a sizable bar to run properly, so you would need at least an Intel's 10000 series or a Ryzen 3000. Otherwise the performance drop would be quite noticeable. We are talking in the range from 20% and all the way to 50-60. It depends. The A380 with its 6GB of VRAM buffer is quite tempting. Oh, and if you really need AV1 encoding, you should stick to Intel, as neither AMD or Nvidia has this at this low of a tier. The fact that they are PCI 4 x 8 doesn't hurt them when running on PCI 3 systems. This is not true, however, for our next two candidates from Team AMD, this being the RX 6400 and the 6500 XT. Here both cards only have 4GB of VRAM and run on PCI 4 x 4, which means a performance loss of around 15% on average when running on PCI 3, depending on the game of course. These GPUs cost around 130 euros and 160 euros respectively. Also, these GPUs do not have any encoders, but if you don't know what an encoder is, it is most likely you won't be needing one. Last but not least, we have the Nvidia RTX 3050 6GB, so the cut down version. This is far the most expensive GPU at around 200 euros, but also the most capable if the RX 6500 XT does not run on PCI 4 and you don't run out of VRAM. The Nvidia GPU does not suffer any of the limitations from AMD's or Intel cards, so you won't see much performance loss running them on older hardware. but it's the most expensive. So yeah, here you have to compromise when selecting a GPU. And another thing to keep in mind is whether your GPU needs additional power and if the computer can provide that. A lot of the times these proprietary PCs like Dell's, Lenovo's, HP's don't have additional power connectors. But you know, you have plenty of the above mentioned GPUs that don't require a 6-pin. The only exception, to my knowledge, is the 6500 XT. Well, you can get 3050, A380, A310 or 6400 that don't need an additional power connector. And also you find them in low format. So if you don't get the full case, you can use the half height. Do your homework and check. There are also plenty of performance test videos online to see how your games would run on the selected hardware. So for less than 500 euros, you could get a brand new PC that is powered by an APU. So a processor with a strong integrated graphics. This way you can get a kinda gaming PC while you save up the money to buy a dedicated GPU at a later date. The cheapest thing you can get is Ryzen 5500 GT, which is far from the newest, but it is still a capable 6-core processor with Vega graphics and can run some esport titles and older games at low settings. I paired it with 32GB of DDR4. Usually when on budget, I would suggest to stick with 16GB and upgrade later, but since you would be using the integrated graphics, and that thing uses RAM and modern games require quite a bit, so I would suggest allocating 4GB. Thus it leaves you with only 12GB, which is not ideal, and also the difference in price from 16 to 32 is so small, so I just think it's worth it. By the way, this does not hold true for DDR5, however. And when it comes to storage, case and power supply, they are all the same for all other new builds you will see, simply because I think that you need at least 1 TB of storage, in my opinion. You could save €1 or €2 by going with a SATA SSD instead of an NVMe, but you can install an NVMe directly to the motherboard, so no hassle mounting the SSD. The case is a generic one, with what looks like decent airflow and a decent power supply that should last us and can power a wide variety of GPUs, but the most important thing is that it does not blow up. This comes to a total of €376, so a bit more than the €300. In theory you could get a Ryzen 5700G, which is an 8-core CPU, but the price difference is of €50, which is a lot. And the iGPU is not that better, far from it. If you would go with the current gen APU, you would have to buy at least the Ryzen 8600G, as the 8500G graphics performs worse. When it comes to AM5, I do suggest sticking to at least a 50 series board, but a lower tier board can be used, yet you would be giving up some features. Here we also take 32GB for the same reasons as before, except the price. And adding the storage case and power supply combo, it nets us around €530. But gaming, can't you get a proper PC for that amount of money? Well, you will have to wait and see for the second part of this video, which will be out hopefully soon. If you have questions regarding what to get, what to pair with what, feel free to ask them in the comment section below or over on my Discord server. Link is in the video description. And I will see you all. Gaming Teacher out.